I didn't realize this until yesterday, but I guess the internet is pretty upset with you. You teased a big cameo on the show, said it was an actor you've longed to work with forever, had extraordinary chemistry. Then we see the cameo, and it's another version of your character. What's going on there?
Yeah. You know when you think something's going to be funny and you say it, and then you actually panic about it, which is what I did.
But we're not sure, though. You could be trolling us right now. So is there a big appearance by someone?
Well, I'd love to answer that question, but my service keeps clicking.
If only you had a little more vision.
Alright, so the objective of this essay is to examine WandaVision Episode 9 and use the results to cohesively evaluate the themes of the entire show. In other words, more trauma stuff. However, instead of focusing on trauma and memory and trauma and imagination, the main topic is trauma and self-esteem, for the reason that Episode 9 is effectively about the wrath of Wanda's newly assembled identity. She defeats Agatha by accepting herself.
But I don't need you to tell me who.
As defined in the essay Measures of Self-Esteem, it argued in the social sciences, self-esteem is a hypothetical construct that is quantified. It is the overall effective evaluation of one's own worth, value, or importance.
If you won't let us go, just let us die.
As a result, there's a tendency in research to treat self-esteem as a mediating factor because it influences the way we evaluate traumatic experiences and adversities. As Dumont and Provost said, it seems that having developed a positive personal perception and a strong perception of control would guard against negative perceptions of daily stressful situations, probably by building in the individual a solid impression that he or she has the capacity to cope with these aspects of daily life. However, the essay Depressive Symptoms After Trauma argued that it's not that simple because self-esteem is not systematically a mediator between trauma and depressive symptoms. Trauma may, however, have relationships with certain depressive symptoms.
I don't know, and I don't know.
As a result, the framework within this essay will move away from the subject of trauma and more towards self-esteem as a distinct process in one's identity. And then I'll re-engage it with the rest of the trauma discussion that I've had, so I don't conflate the theories in a misleading way. Not to mention I get to build a slightly more pretentious spider web of ideas.
It's worth a try.
We open exactly where episode 8 left. Agatha, similar to her burning, uses Wanda's hostility to absorb her power while giving a BS offer.
And I'll let you keep this pathetic little corner of the world all to yourself.
However, Original Vision then arrives and tries to squish Wanda's head like Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
And I was told you were powerful.
Then Fantasy Vision arrives to fight him and he reunites with Wanda.
I should have told you everything.
He forgives her due to his newfound knowledge from Darcy.
I know why you made this world, but this...
I can fix it.
Subsequently, they team up to fight over Westview, where Haywood watches. He reveals his plans to Jimmy and does the corny "join me" speech.
You could be a part of that victory, Jimmy.
You and I are not so different.
So yeah, this is the least nuanced payoff that he could have given for Haywood. Agatha explains to Wanda her destiny to destroy the world as the Scarlet Witch. Wanda rebukes that it can't be magic because she was never trained in it.
I'm not a witch. I don't cast spells. No one taught me magic.
Therefore, there's still a bit of room for there to be some form of intersection between her magic profile and her possible mutant origins, especially since Pietro didn't die from the Hydra experiment and he's not a Scarlet Witch. Although, speaking of mutants, Pietro is then revealed to be just a dude called
Ralph Boner?
On one hand, I feel kind of embarrassed for getting this completely wrong, but that seems to be also the point. Boner Boy is very clearly a subtle announcement that there's basically no interest to involve the Fox universe, so the actors are gonna be snatched for other projects, and Kevin Feige doesn't want people to think of anything special. The Westview people are then freed for a second, and they've all inherited Wanda's original hopelessness.
We feel your pain.
Your grief is poisoning us.
No, stop.
Please, let us go.
They hold a mirror for everything she once was. The overwhelmed Wanda then accidentally chokes them, but out of guilt, she opens the barrier, leading Haywood in, and the Westview populace out. But Fantasy Vision and the kids begin to die, which forces Wanda to accept that she's trapped with an awkward choice.
Save Westview or save your family.
But she doesn't choose now though. A big goofy battle ensues. Original Vision reveals he only has a mission with no memories. Therefore Fantasy Vision outwits him and they engage in a philosophical debate over who pertains ownership of their identity.
You are familiar with the thought experiment, the ship of Theseus in the field of identity metaphysics.
Subsequently the line,
Perhaps the rot is the memory, the wear and tear of the voyages, the wood touched by Theseus himself.
I would argue is the show at its most interpretively naked, for the reason that this entire story is really about Wanda trying to assemble a place where she could reconcile with the past. It only unfortunately led to her myopia spreading.
You let us sleep. We have your nightmares.
Fantasy Vision surrenders ownership of his identity, restoring Original Vision's memories, and he leaves with a great disenchanted feeling. Wanda orders the boys to handle the military, which I thought was kind of hysterical.
Boys, handle the military.
Monica confronts Haywood and reunites with the children she helped deliver. Darcy saves the day. Fantasy Vision returns to his children with a great big smile after his negligence.
It's their first Halloween. You have to be there.
Boys, 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 boys!
Wanda attempts to attack Agatha's mind, which brings great pain. But it doesn't entirely work out and the memory turns against Wanda. She accepts Agatha's offer and she begins to have her life drained out of her as her family watches. Although Wanda reveals that she had actually secretly laid out a series of runes to disempower Agatha, and she begins to absorb Agatha's power and reclaiming ownership of herself, realizing the glimpse Wanda had back in Hydra in the last episode. Agatha is then cruelly punished by being forcefully turned into Agnes again. However, she does say,
You're gonna need me.
in an oddly responsible tone, which hints towards a possible mentor relationship in the future, like in the comics. The family is reunited and they accept their fate. Tommy and Billy are tucked in. Wanda displays a more robust and resilient mindset as she comforts them with the words,
A family is forever. We could never truly leave each other even if we tried.
Vision shares a moment and asks, what am I? At first, Wanda gives a rather blunt answer.
You are a body of wires and blood and bone that I created.
But then she develops it into a more romantic message.
You are my sadness and my hope, but mostly you're my love.
And he fades away with excitement over what's next. Wanda has finally truly reconciled with the past and is looking forward to the future. As a result, Wanda has a walk of shame where everyone gives her a rather antagonistic look. On one hand, her persevering attitude represents a restoration of her old self because she learned to not be bothered by this in Civil War, but on the other hand, this is possibly establishing an MCU where people are actively anxious over the notion of people having uncontrolled spontaneous natural powers, aka a fear of mutants. Monica gives Wanda the opportunity to apologize, and they reconcile with great respect.
Bye, Wanda.
Wanda leaves Westview with a bit of resentment, a ruthless determination, but also, more importantly, optimism. Furthermore, in the mid-credit scene, Haywood is arrested, Monica is invited to space, and in the after-credits, like in The Incredible Hulk, Wanda is now safely isolated, away in the woods, to learn about her powers. However, as her astral form studies, she hears her children cry. There's loads of odd cliches that decorate this episode. However, underneath all the obligatory loud noises and weird exposition, it luckily preserves the sincerity of the wider story, for the reason that, deep down inside, what ties this episode together is a story about someone rebuilding their self-esteem after having appropriated their traumatic memories.
I don't understand this power, but I will.
It begins with Wanda at the start of her recovery. Despite being wrecked by confusion and guilt, Wanda refuses to back down or return to her ignorance because she's determined to end things on her own terms.
I know you'll set everything right, just not for us.
Not for us.
As Dumont and Provost said, the negative correlation between avoidance and self-esteem may provide an interesting clue to the dynamics of the avoidance-distress relation. Furthermore, self-esteem is positively correlated with involvement in community, family, neighborhood, but negatively correlated with antisocial activities with peers.
Power isn't your problem, it's knowledge. Give me your power.
Agatha Harkness represents the antisocial once, effectively, someone that gives Wanda the option to avoid being herself, and this is symbolically anchored when she's brought back to her burning, because she breaks down.
I beg you. I beg you. No, no, no!
Although this is unveiled to be merely a trick, I think her initial reaction is genuine because it complements Wanda's arc so well. It's the inability to confront one's responsibility that made Wanda a prisoner of her own mind. And it's the logic that Agatha has settled in herself and is also trying to promote.
I did not break your rules. They simply bent to my power.
In contrast, Fantasy Vision is the opposite. Episode 8 and 9 reframes his existence. His original role was to be a substitute for real Vision, but he's actually a vessel for Wanda's self-acceptance. He's not actually Vision, but Wanda's idea of Vision, and therefore reflects an idea she has of herself, the things she lacks.
I had no idea how much Wanda had endured before coming to Westview, how much we both had. For me, it feels like it happened to someone else, but for her, it's mere weeks ago.
Therefore, throughout the show, Vision is not interested in leaving, but only in learning. When he actually leaves the bubble, it's not to escape, but to get help.
It is my intention to reach those outside of Westview and make sense of our situation.
Fantasy Vision is half of Wanda's mind, the curious part that's looking to free the other half that's imprisoned by grief. Therefore, when she bids him farewell, she's become one person again and enters a new stage in life where she doesn't need him, which is presumably why Wanda doesn't go after the new Vision, but instead continues to learn more about herself in isolation. She built a house that she tore down, so now she's learned how to build something whenever it's necessary. Upon reflection, Agatha Harkness and Vision are more or less artistic measuring tools used to show Wanda's increasing self-worth. The show was never a love story, it's about self-love instead. That sounds like a masturbation joke. Now, with hindsight, let's reorganize my discussion with, you know it, the monomyth for the last time. Aww. The first 3 episodes are entirely devoted to the sitcom, so it's already self-identified as Act 1, as Wanda explained to Vision the nature of the sitcom, or at least her understanding of it.
It is funny because of the grievous injury the man just suffered.
No, he's not really injured.
Ah, how can you be certain?
It's not that kind of show.
Westview is designed to keep Wanda safe, and the formulaic jokes emphasizes this. They're always expecting rejection, but are always accepted.
Norm here's a communist.
Westview is designed to appease Wanda's low self-esteem. Therefore, Act 2's artistic equivalent of the hero traveling into the unknown, unfamiliar, comes from Wanda and Vision becoming disenchanted.
Wanda! Agnes was right there!
Wanda stops caring about staying secret. She acknowledges the artifice of the fantasy to Vision, and she's confused by Boner Boy. Vision changes from suspicious to embittered.
You can't control me the way you do then.
Can't I?
Their argument is really the heart of this act, because it's the impetus of their transformation. They lose their fear to ask questions.
Why do you look different?
Episodes 7, 8, and 9 all very neatly fall into Act 3 because they use their new bravery to confront the truth. Vision leaves paradise and attains knowledge from Darcy, so he's no longer disillusioned.
I've been watching WandaVision for the past week, and the love you two have is real.
Wanda confronts her traumatic memories and appropriates them for a new identity, and they return to each other as wiser people who are ready to let go of their fantasy and confront the real world, as chaotic and hurtful it may be. As a result, Episode 9 effectively covers Stage 17, the freedom to live, where the hero achieves the wisdom to define themselves as they are in the present, without regret nor anticipation of something else. paraphrase from page 209. So the show is effectively structured cyclically. Westview is both home and a trial within the journey. As Monica is forced to stay on the ground due to her mother's orders to grieve, Westview functions the same for Wanda. It's a place to stop and reassemble herself. When Agatha is reverted to Agnes, it's artistically used to put on display the margin of difference. Wanda used to identify and idolize with the safe cliches represented on TV, but now that identification is a form of punishment, an identifiable regression, if you will.
I'll give you the role you chose. The nosy neighbor.
Subsequently, when you put all 9 episodes together, we effectively have a story about someone cultivating self-esteem in order to remember and build productively from those memories. In the same way that fantasy Vision is a man made from new parts and real Vision is a new man formed from old parts, Wanda takes the traumatic memories to build a new person with herself. It's through Vision's argument, the Monica encounters, and Agatha's interrogation that Wanda attains the integrity needed to adapt her trauma into a new identity. WandaVision shows us that memories need self-esteem to be productive. Since this is the last episode analysis, let's end my pretentious video with a pretentious music tribute. Kick it up, me, that will be resentfully editing this tomorrow.
If you stay here, you'll die.
I just did. Do you know how it felt?
We will lie to you, and yet you will believe our little deceptions. Because human beings are easily fooled due to their limited understanding of the inner workings of the universe.
What's your secret, sister?
You can talk to me.
I don't know how any of this started in the first place.
I only remember feeling completely alone. Endless nothingness. I looked in your head and saw annihilation.
Look again. But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. It's a privilege to be among you.
What is outside of Westview?
You don't want to know, I promise you.
You don't get to make that choice for me, Wanda!
You've never talked to me like this before.
Before what? I can't remember my life before Westview. I don't know who I am! I'm scared!
No one dislikes you, Wanda.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. No, it's an involuntary response in their amygdala they can't help but be afraid.
Are you?
I make them very synthetic, so.
You are my husband. You're Tommy and Billy's father. Isn't that enough? And what do you want?
For people to see you as I do.
If Wanda is the problem, she has to be our solution.
The worst thing I can think of has already happened to me. No. Given the chance and given your power, I'd bring my mom back.
I'm sorry, what?
Terrestrial missions only.
You're kidding. For how long? Whose protocol is this?
Your mother's.
You know I would.
What the shenanigan again? Shenanigan is like problem that can actually be scary, but can sometimes be a little scary. Mom and Dad have been not fighting, just like different.
You don't believe me?
Wanda, I want to, but at this point, I'm ignoring statistics entirely.
But certainly you are the true Vision who you believe yourself to be.
That was once the case. But upon meeting you, I have been disabused of that notion.
I should have told you everything. The moment I realized what I'd done.
It's all right, Wanda. I know why you made this world, but this...
I can fix it.
Can you? I am Vision.
Perhaps the rot is the memories, the wear and tear of the voyages, the wood touched by Theseus himself.
What am I?
You are my sadness. And my hope.
A memory. Made real.
yeah, what's my opinion? I liked it. Granted, I didn't get to really engage with the show particularly emotionally because I was way too busy making notes.